Good afternoon, class. Who here is aware of the strides and efforts Rodolfo Gonzalez has made during his lifetime to help support Mexican Americans leading up to the Chicano movement? Today, I will inform you about one of the most overlooked figures during the Chicano movement. Through extensive research, I have learned a considerable amount of information about who Rodolfo Gonzalez was as a person, as well as what he stood for. Today, I will discuss who Rodolfo Gonzalez was as a person, his early life, and his work as a humanitarian. First, I will talk to you about Rodolfo Gonzalez as a person. Rodolfo Gonzalez was considered one of the most charismatic and vocal leaders of the Chicano movement. His nickname, Corky, was given to him by his uncle, who said he was always popping off like a cork due to his hot-headed personality. He was taught hard work at a young age, also because he worked a job on the fields while he attended high school. Now that you know about Rodolfo Gonzalez as a person, let's discuss his early life. Rodolfo Gonzalez was born in Denver, Colorado on June 18, 1928. He was the youngest of 8 children, and as a child, to parents who had immigrated from Mexico to the United States, his family grew up in poverty, something he said he hardly noticed. Later in his youth, despite working manual labor and constantly switching between high schools that spanned from Denver to New Mexico, he earned his high school diploma at age 16. With an interest and desire to pursue a career in engineering, Rodolfo went to college to pursue that goal. However, he only studied for 1 semester because he could not afford to pay his education. After this setback, Rodolfo turned to a career in boxing to earn a living. He had a successful career as a fighter in the featherweight division, finishing his career with 75 fights, 63 wins, 11 losses, and 1 draw. Now that you know about Rodolfo Gonzalez's early life, let's discuss his career as an activist. Rodolfo's desire to be involved with social activism and rights for Mexican Americans can be traced back to his childhood, where his dad would tell him stories about the Mexican Revolution and the pride people of Mexico have for their culture. In 1960, he became interested in the political spectrum. During JFK's presidential campaign, he worked on voter registration. He ended up registering more Mexican American voters than any other person in Colorado's history. In 1964, he was appointed director on Denver's War on Poverty office, a major accomplishment. Soon after this, he left his career in politics in order to focus on human rights, more specifically human rights of Mexican Americans. Considered a founding father of the Chicano movement, he founded the Crusade for Justice in 1966, whose goal was to help self-determination and community control in the aspects of Mexican American life. Shortly after its creation, the Crusade for Justice had already had its own education school, its own art school, newspaper, and credit bureau. Despite this, Rodolfo still wasn't very well known. It wasn't until he released his poem, I Am Joaquin, in 1967, that he became a well-known name amongst the Mexican American community. Between 1967 and 1972, Rodolfo had already attended many important marches, conferences, and rallies which aimed to positively impact the lives of Mexican Americans across the United States. Now that you know all you need to know about Rodolfo Gonzalez, let's review. You now know about Rodolfo Gonzalez as a person, his early life, and his career as an activist. I hope you now have an appreciation for everything that this man has done for the Mexican American community. Thank you.